In a world obsessed with social hierarchies, where men are often boxed into the alpha versus beta dichotomy, there exists a rare and enigmatic breed, the sigma male. Unlike the alpha, who thrives on dominance, or the beta, who seeks acceptance, the sigma male defies categorization. He is self-sufficient, fiercely independent, and governed by his own code. He doesn't chase validation, nor does he bow to societal expectations. Instead, he moves through life with quiet confidence, strategic intelligence, and an unshakable sense of purpose. Yet, for all his strengths, there's one glaring trait that sets him apart: his solitude. While most people are surrounded by friends, social circles, and constant interaction, the sigma male stands apart. He may have acquaintances, allies, or temporary companions, but genuine, deep friendships? Almost non-existent. This raises a critical question: is his isolation a weakness, or a deliberate choice? Is the sigma male simply an antisocial loner, incapable of forming bonds? Or is there a far more profound reason behind his solitary existence, one that reveals uncomfortable truths about society, human nature, and the price of true independence? In this video, we're dissecting 8 brutally honest reasons why sigma males have zero friends, reasons that may challenge your beliefs, expose harsh realities, and ultimately make you rethink modern friendship itself. By the end, you'll understand why sigma males don't just accept solitude, they master it. Let's begin. Number 1, they naturally challenge group mentality. Sigma males possess an innate resistance to herd mentality that sets them fundamentally apart from the majority. Where most individuals unconsciously absorb societal norms and groupthink as psychological survival mechanisms, the sigma male's mind operates differently. His default setting is skepticism rather than acceptance. From childhood, these individuals demonstrate an unusual pattern of interrogating realities that others take for granted, whether questioning authority figures, examining cultural traditions, or probing the underlying logic of social conventions. This intellectual independence manifests powerfully in professional environments. When a new corporate initiative generates unanimous enthusiasm among colleagues, the sigma male remains the solitary voice asking uncomfortable questions. What data supports this change? Have we considered potential downsides? Does this actually align with our long-term objectives? Where others see consensus as safety, the sigma sees it as potential complacency. His relentless pursuit of substantive justification rather than superficial agreement frequently puts him at odds with group dynamics. The social consequences of this mindset are profound. Most people experience visceral discomfort when their assumptions are challenged, interpreting critique as personal attack rather than intellectual rigor. Over time, the sigma male's persistent refusal to engage in performative agreement creates an invisible barrier. Colleagues and acquaintances gradually distance themselves, not because the sigma is wrong, but because his presence forces cognitive labor they'd rather avoid. In a world where social bonds often form through mutual reassurance rather than truth-seeking, the sigma's commitment to independent thought becomes a lonely path. Number 2, they have zero tolerance for flakiness. Sigma males approach interpersonal relationships with the same exacting standards they apply to themselves, particularly regarding time and commitment. In their worldview, punctuality and follow-through aren't mere social niceties, they're fundamental measures of character and mutual respect. This philosophy stems from their intrinsic understanding that time represents the ultimate non-renewable resource. Every moment wasted on unreliable individuals is stolen from meaningful pursuits. Consider the psychological calculus when a friend chronically cancels plans last minute. Where others might rationalize, traffic was bad, they're just busy, the sigma male perceives the deeper pattern, a consistent prioritization of convenience over commitment. He recognizes that habitual lateness or cancellation isn't about circumstances, it's about values. The flaky individual demonstrates through actions that their comfort takes precedence over mutual agreements, a mindset fundamentally incompatible with sigma principles. This intolerance for unreliability extends beyond obvious offenses. The sigma male notices subtler patterns most overlook: the friend who perpetually forgets to respond to messages yet remains active on social media, the colleague who volunteers ideas but never executes, the relative who makes promises contingent on better options not materializing. These behaviors register not as minor quirks, but as fundamental breaches of the sigma's ethical framework. His response isn't emotional outrage, but calm disengagement, systematically reallocating his finite time and energy toward individuals whose actions demonstrate congruent values. In a culture that increasingly normalizes unreliability as being flexible, the sigma's unwavering standards inevitably shrink his social circle to only the most rigorously vetted connections. Number 3, they reject the hidden competition in modern friendships. Beneath the surface of many supposedly close friendships lies an unspoken arena of constant comparison and one-upmanship. Sigma males possess an almost psychic ability to detect these undercurrents of competition that most either ignore or unconsciously participate in. Where ordinary friendships maintain a veneer of camaraderie, the Sigma recognizes how often conversations subtly devolve into status displays, the strategic name-dropping of promotions, the carefully timed mentions of new possessions, the fishing for compliments about personal achievements. This phenomenon is particularly pronounced in male friendships, where cultural conditioning often replaces emotional intimacy with competitive banter and veiled power struggles. The Sigma male's aversion to this dynamic isn't rooted in insecurity, but in profound philosophical disagreement. He views friendship as sacred ground where individuals should find respite from society's judgment, not an extension of it. When he shares good news, a career milestone, personal accomplishment, or life improvement, he intuitively senses when congratulations contain hidden barbs. The backhanded compliment, "Must be nice to have that handed to you," the sudden topic change, or the immediate counter with the friend's own achievement all register as violations of friendship's essential purpose. Unlike those who tolerate these exchanges as normal social friction, the Sigma male finds them spiritually exhausting. His response isn't confrontation, but gradual withdrawal, creating emotional distance from relationships that feel more like tennis matches than safe harbors. This discernment extends to observing how others react to his struggles. The Sigma notices which friends genuinely rally during his low points versus those who unconsciously reveal relief at his stumbles. Over time, he curates his social sphere to exclude anyone who seems to need him to lose in order for them to feel like winners. In a world where many mistake rivalry for connection, the Sigma's refusal to play these games inevitably limits his circle, a trade-off he makes willingly for the sake of authentic relationships. Number 4, their trust requires near-impossible standards. The Sigma male's approach to trust resembles a bank vault with biometric security, accessible only after exhaustive verification and nearly impossible to breach once granted. This extreme selectivity doesn't stem from paranoia, but from hard-earned experience. Early betrayals, whether childhood friends spreading secrets, romantic partners violating confidence, or business associates breaking agreements, forge in the Sigma an unshakable understanding: most people's loyalty expires when sufficiently tempted. His trust-building process would exhaust most applicants. Where others might grant provisional trust based on charm or surface-level compatibility, the Sigma male administers a gauntlet of unconscious tests. He observes how potential friends speak about absent parties, noting whether criticism remains principled or devolves into gossip. He deliberately shares minor vulnerabilities, watching for whether they're respected or eventually weaponized. He pays acute attention to whether promises, no matter how small, are kept with consistency. Even years of demonstrated reliability might only earn guarded trust, as the Sigma knows many can play the long con. This hypervigilance creates a paradox. By the time someone has proven themselves truly trustworthy, they've likely become frustrated with the Sigma's exacting standards. Meanwhile, those who protest the testing process most vehemently often prove exactly why it was necessary. The Sigma accepts this dynamic with stoic resignation, preferring solitude over the emotional toll of another betrayal. His few trusted bonds, however, become unshakable alliances, precisely because they've survived his merciless vetting process. Number 5, their evolution outpaces static relationships. Sigma males experience personal growth at a velocity that leaves conventional friendships behind. Their relentless self-improvement creates a life trajectory resembling a rocket launch, each stage of development necessitating the jettisoning of relationships that can't withstand the increasing altitude. Where most people change incrementally, adapting just enough to navigate life's demands, Sigmas pursue transformation with almost monastic dedication. Consider the Sigma's typical evolution. The party-focused college friends who mocked his early morning productivity rituals become intolerable once he's building his empire. The coworkers who bonded over complaining about management seem petty once he's operating at a strategic level. Even family relationships strain when his expanded worldview challenges generations of inherited limitations. The Sigma doesn't abandon these connections out of arrogance, but because maintaining them requires self-betrayal, dumbing down his conversation, suppressing his ambitions, or pretending shared history outweighs diverging values. This merciless pruning happens almost organically. As the Sigma immerses himself in mastery, whether of business, art, philosophy, or physical discipline, he finds less in common with those content with superficial pursuits. Conversations that once flowed now feel laborious, inside jokes that used to land now seem juvenile. The Sigma recognizes when he's become the outlier in a group, when his presence seems to dampen the mood simply by being himself. Rather than force connections through nostalgia or obligation, he honors the natural expiration date, grateful for what these relationships taught him while making space for those aligned with his current evolution. This constant upgrading of social circles isn't without cost. Old friends may perceive his growth as rejection, accusing him of changing or thinking he's better. The Sigma accepts these judgments as the price of refusing stagnation. He understands that profound growth requires periodic loneliness, the wilderness between who he was and who he's becoming. Those rare individuals who evolve alongside him, or at least celebrate rather than resent his transformation, earn a permanent place in his ever-narrowing inner circle. Number 6, the philosophy of effortless connection. For the Sigma male, authentic friendship is not about forced interactions or performative bonding. It is an organic meeting of minds that requires no pretense, no emotional labor, and no unnecessary maintenance. While most people accept that relationships demand work, constant communication, obligatory check-ins, and the careful management of emotions, the Sigma male rejects this notion entirely. To him, the very idea that friendship should feel like a chore is proof of its inauthenticity. Consider the exhausting dynamics of high-maintenance friendships: the friend who requires daily reassurance, the one who turns every conversation into a therapy session, or the individual whose life is a perpetual crisis demanding intervention. Sigma males quickly recognize these patterns as emotional vampirism, a one-sided drain on their energy that offers little in return. They refuse to participate in relationships where they must shrink themselves to accommodate another's instability or neediness. Instead, they seek connections that mirror their own self-sufficiency, where silence is comfortable, support is mutual but never obligatory, and neither party feels burdened by the other's presence. This preference for ease over obligation means that Sigma males often exist on the periphery of conventional social circles. They do not suffer through awkward small talk, tolerate manipulative guilt trips, or feign interest in conversations that lack substance. Their friendships, when they do form, are marked by a rare and refreshing simplicity: two individuals who appreciate each other's company without demands, who can disappear for months and reconnect as if no time has passed, who understand that true companionship does not require constant validation. In a world where loneliness drives many to cling to draining relationships, the Sigma male would rather stand alone than settle for connections that feel like work. Number 7, the art of solitary fulfillment. Where most people dread solitude, Sigma males cultivate it. They do not merely tolerate being alone, they thrive in it, finding in silence what others desperately seek in crowds: clarity, creativity, and a profound sense of peace. This is not the loneliness of the outcast, but the deliberate solitude of the self-contained. The Sigma male does not suffer from social FOMO, fear of missing out, because he understands that most social gatherings are exercises in distraction rather than meaningful engagement. His ability to enjoy his own company is unparalleled. While others scroll mindlessly through social media to numb their discomfort with silence, the Sigma male spends hours in deep study, physical training, or strategic planning, activities that require undiluted focus. He might embark on solo travels to remote locations, not out of antisocial tendencies, but because he knows that true reflection is impossible amid the noise of others' expectations. Unlike those who use constant socialization as a way to avoid confronting their own thoughts, the Sigma male welcomes introspection. He does not fear the depths of his own mind, he explores them with the same discipline he applies to external pursuits. This self-sufficiency makes him impervious to the social pressures that govern most people's behavior. He does not maintain friendships out of obligation or cling to relationships out of fear of loneliness. His happiness is not contingent on external validation, and thus, he is free to engage with others only when it aligns with his values. Those who mistake his solitude for sadness fail to grasp that his independence is not a deficiency, it is mastery. Number 8, the uncompromising standards of Sigma bonds. Sigma males do not collect friends, they vet them. Their relationships are built on 3 non-negotiable pillars: trustworthiness, loyalty, and respect, standards so rigorously upheld that few ever meet them. In an era where these words are casually thrown around but rarely embodied, the Sigma male's refusal to compromise on them sets him apart. For the Sigma, trust is not given, it is earned through consistent action over time. He pays attention not to what people say, but to what they do. A friend who claims confidentiality but indulges in gossip, who makes promises but habitually fails to deliver, or who alters their principles based on convenience will never gain his confidence. The Sigma male's trust is like a vault with a single combination. Once broken, it cannot be repaired. Loyalty, to a Sigma, is not blind allegiance, it is the willingness to stand by someone when it is inconvenient to do so. He has zero tolerance for fair-weather friends who disappear during hardship or who prioritize social approval over integrity. He observes how people speak of others behind their backs, knowing that today's gossip is tomorrow's betrayal. A true loyalist, in his eyes, is someone who remains steadfast not out of obligation, but out of genuine respect. Respect, in Sigma terms, is not about deference, it is about boundaries. He dismisses those who demand excessive emotional labor, who disregard his time, or who attempt to manipulate through guilt. Even minor transgressions, chronic lateness, passive-aggressive comments, or subtle attempts at control, are seen as signs of deeper disrespect. The Sigma male does not argue with such behavior, he simply removes himself from it. Because these pillars are so rarely upheld in modern relationships, Sigma males often operate with a small circle, or none at all. They would rather walk alone than lower their standards for the sake of companionship. This is not arrogance, but discernment. They understand that true friendship is not about quantity, but quality, and until they find those who meet their criteria, they are content in their own company. The Sigma male's approach to friendship is not a rejection of human connection, but a refinement of it. He seeks bonds that elevate rather than drain, that inspire rather than obligate. In a world drowning in shallow interactions, his standards may seem extreme, but they are the very reason his few relationships, when they exist, are unshakable. For those who cannot meet his criteria, he offers no apology. His solitude is not a failure, it is a choice. And in that choice lies his power. Conclusion. The Sigma male social isolation is often misinterpreted as a deficiency, an inability to connect, a lack of social skills, or even arrogance. But this assumption couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is that Sigma males could cultivate friendships if they wanted to. They possess the intelligence, charisma, and insight to navigate social dynamics with ease, but they choose not to. Why? Because most modern friendships demand compromises they refuse to make. In a world where relationships are increasingly transactional, where people bond over shared complaints rather than shared values, where loyalty is conditional on convenience, and where trust is broken as casually as it's given, the Sigma male's standards stand in stark contrast. He does not seek companionship for the sake of filling silence or easing loneliness. He seeks substance, authenticity. A connection that doesn't require him to dull his edges, suppress his thoughts, or sacrifice his principles just to be accepted. And so, he walks alone, not out of bitterness, but out of discernment. The Sigma male understands something most people don't: real friendship is not common. It is an exception. Most social bonds are built on fragile foundations, shared circumstances, fleeting interests, or the mutual exchange of validation. When those circumstances change, the friendship often fades. Sigma males have no interest in these temporary alliances. They seek the kind of rare, enduring connections where silence is as meaningful as conversation, where loyalty is unwavering, and where respect is non-negotiable. Until they find those connections, if they ever do, they would rather stand solitary than lower their standards. They refuse to engage in the exhausting dance of performative friendships, where people pretend to care more than they do, or where relationships are maintained out of habit rather than genuine regard. What most people fear, being alone, the Sigma male embraces. He doesn't just tolerate solitude, he masters it. Where others seek constant distraction to avoid facing themselves, he finds power in introspection. His alone time is not empty, it is purposeful. It is where he refines his mind, sharpens his ambitions, and cultivates the kind of self-sufficiency that most never achieve. This is not to say he is closed off to meaningful connections. If the right person enters his life, someone who meets his exacting standards of trust, loyalty, and respect, he will invest deeply. But he will never need that connection to feel whole. His happiness is self-contained. His fulfillment is internally generated. Final truth, the Sigma's path is not for everyone. The Sigma male's way of life is not a condemnation of those who thrive in social circles. It is simply a different philosophy, one that prioritizes quality over quantity, truth over comfort, and self-respect over social approval. For those who misunderstand him, his solitude may seem like loneliness. But those who truly grasp his mindset recognize it for what it is: freedom. Freedom from shallow interactions. Freedom from emotional leeches. Freedom from the exhausting pretense of caring about people who don't truly care about him. So yes, the Sigma male walks alone. But he does so with his head high, his mind clear, and his standards intact. And in a world drowning in superficial connections, that is not a weakness, it is strength.